Hi.
Sub Soul
What's
Sister number one.
happening? What's going on?
Nothing but the rent.
Every month, without
Nothing but
fail,
the rent.
every time. Let me tell you something. If I can find somebody to help us out with this rent, everything will be lovely.
Everything would be lovely.
How are you?
Look, I'm blessed and highly favored, so
Oh, amen.
I'm not gonna try to be all up in the complaining.
Listen, because you know what? If you complain, nobody really cares. They say they do, but they don't. I have
I
found that out
think
the hard way.
I think people would care if I told them.
Oh, about for you, of course. For me, they're like, "Girl, if you don't stop complaining and go sit down."
Your friend cares.
Does he now?
Uh-huh.
Mm,
Saw the
mm,
friend.
look.
Saw the friend the other night.
Does
Mm.
he? We
Hey
trying to figure that
friend.
out.
Hey
Look, we trying to figure that
friend.
out. So look,
Boy.
first of all, I want to say that I'm so happy that you carved out some time because I know you're super busy to talk to little old me. And let me
Little
tell you
Louise,
why.
please.
Let me tell you
Please.
why. So I created this series, Woman to Woman, because I feel like we're always celebrating women who have gone on or, in the past and history, but we never really give flowers to the women around us every day who are doing incredible things. And I think you,
Okay,
without question, are one of those women.
okay, stop. That's what, oh my God. The fact that you just said that is crazy, Jasmine. I, I've, and I think particularly Black women don't get their flowers.
Mhm.
Women of color don't get their flowers because, we're always in service, right? The tropes. So it's like, we're the caregivers, we're the, behind the scenes. And so I've been working on this project, this science and sport exhibit. It's Game On, the science of sport and play. And I started this journey about 7 years ago because my boys are more interested in the art of science and not necessarily sports. And I said, my job is about pathways, right? It's sports, but it's a hook to get kids thinking about the future, the possibilities, to believe in themselves. And where I grew up, you didn't ha- I didn't I mean my parents were working class parents, nothing wrong with being union, grocery clerk and a butcher is my stepdad. But that didn't settle for me. I wanted to be something more, but I didn't have that vision in my neighborhood, right? I can
Mm.
remember watching TV. The Huxtables was a game changer, like, wearing a suit and they're a doctor and a lawyer. You're like, what
Yeah.
is this?
Like
How do
that
I do
really
that?
exists?
Right? Does it really exist? And does it exist for me? And so, so I envisioned this when the space shuttle moved and we had this gala. So it was a gala it's going to open in a couple weeks. And I'm worried that people are going to be like, oh, it's just somebody did it. Science Center did it. And Saturday night, I got my flowers. There was this recognition that I was the vision behind it. I'm getting an award from the Science Center tomorrow, the Women of the Year for the Muse. It's their women fundraising board. And so the fact that you just said that, I
Mhm.
was thinking over the weekend, oftentimes, and I've been about giving people their flowers. Rayford Johnson, Peter Ubroff,
Mhm.
the folks that have come before me, Anita DeFrance, that have come before me, so that they can see the gratitude, to see the impact that they've made. And so I was just tripping. I'm like, wow, I'm not even at the end of my career and the moment of getting my flowers. So for you to say that is kind of
It's true
scary.
because the thing for me and what my kind of light bulb moment was watching both my biological and my adopted mother give and give and give and give and give and then just die, just gone. And they never
Yep.
got the opportunity to experience the fullness of joy in their lives. They
Mm,
never got a chance to, especially my biological mother. I never got the opportunity to say to her, even though, you had some tough times and what happened between us happened, you know, you're a great woman. You did the best that you could. And I think it's important that we tell one another that. So when I got the opportunity to meet you because we share a mutual friend Terry and she was always talking about you and I was like, I love that. I love to hear other women praising another woman, and not so much because, she climbed Machu Picchu or it's just because she's just a great person. And when I met you, you were everything that she said you were. And then For me, I do a different kind of interview. I like to do a little bit of research, but I like to get to know a person, not from what someone else wrote, but from their heart. Because I think sometimes people can write from a slant. And I know that from being a journalist, right? And I thought, I looked at everything that you've done and I thought, damn, how did you have time to get married and have kids and raise wonderful, amazing human beings and be so humble and so giving to the community, like, the play for equity and just your throughout your career, I noticed something. The common thread was service. And it
Hmm.
reminded me so much of, again, how Black women give and give. We're the fixers, we're the creators. And I wonder, what do you do for you?
Oh man,
Like,
I,
what
I
is
do
for
this for
Renata? Like, what is for
I
you?
I do this for me. This is for Renata. So I don't even know how to answer that question because or unpack that question, I should say, because there's a lot in that. My grandmother was my best friend. My mother and I had a phenomenal relationship, but it was challenged. I didn't find out until I was 17 when I was going in the military that the stepfather who raised me and my older brother and sister's father, who I thought was my biological father, wasn't. It was the love of her life. They weren't married. He had a drug problem. She left. And that started a complicated relationship, but also an understanding of my mother and the choices that she had to make being a teenage a mother. She had 3 kids by the time she was 20. My grandmother was in an abusive relationship, found love, later on in life. But the choices that they made in watching their life, one of the greatest gifts my stepfather gave me is he never put boundaries on me as a woman. I could do anything
Mm,
my brother could do. And that gave me a freedom to sort of nurture this curiosity of why are we in our neighborhood this way? And why isn't opportunities afforded to everybody else who doesn't look like
mm.
the white man or the white woman, white man in particular, or the white woman, as the world started to expand in terms of diversity. And so for me, I'm a testament to my grandmother and my mother, and making sure that I'm making those courageous choices, that I'm giving back to my community, that I'm lifting as I rise, that I'm making pathways for other young people in every aspect of my career. So when you say service, that's who I am, and it brings me joy. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and and I have a lot on my plate. I was talking to my husband last night, and he says, like me, you tell me, Renata, you shouldn't take it all. You should, take time for yourself. And I said, but I feel in the flow of the universe, and this is what I'm supposed to
Mm.
be doing. And when I say blessed, it's this vision of the Play Equity Fund and this innovative model in philanthropy, that these gifts of opportunity are being given to me. The science and sport, an alliance partnership. We have this legislation that we're passing through the state. Those are gifts to drive change, systemic
Mhm.
change in the community. They're going to impact millions. And so for me, that's joy. I'm living my purpose. I'm living my values. And I can't think of anything else that would bring me joy. Now, I do work out. So, being physically active, I walk the talk. My Peloton, weights in the gym, hike every now and again, and then I garden. You've seen my little
Yes.
beautiful garden back there.
Fabulous.
So I'm not about work-life balance. I'm about work-life integration. And I truly believe, my grandmother told me this: when you find what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Mhm, and it's so true, and what a blessing, though, because I think a lot of people go through life and they are unfulfilled. They don't know what their passion is. Their passion is what they are told it is, and they spend the sum of their life working for other people, not in service, but working for other people. In other words, signing the back of the check in terms of
Right.
payment and in terms of physicality. And one
That's
of the
right.
things that I love about the pay equity program that you guys have, I do think it's important that especially young girls, you're right. My dad did the same thing for me. I played with the boys. I played
That's
softball, I
right.
played baseball with the boys. And my brother was mad at me, but what it taught me was I could do anything. And in turn, that sense of sports for me taught me everything from discipline to, how to stand again even in the face of loss. And
Yeah,
when you lose the game, you still have to go and try to play again. And I think it's so important that, you know, everyone has that opportunity to experience it if you want to. And that's why I
that's
think,
great.
you know, the programs that you're doing are so important. And I think, you know, you talked a little bit about, you know, what your grandmother and what you got from your mother. But I think the thing that's great for you to know is that you're also an example. Like when
Mm,
I see people like you, it makes me question, not in a let me measure this out and see if I can do what she's doing, but really make me question, okay, so what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to give back? Not the
I'm
things
inspired.
that
I'm
benefit
inspiring in
you.
that way. Inspiring, not questioning.
Yes. Thank you. But it's true. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you've heard that before. What do you think people say about you when you're not in company of them? What do you think people say about you?
Hmm.
Not that you
Um,
care, but what do you think they say?
yeah, I
Oh,
don't.
you know that
You know what?
Renata, ba 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 ba. What do they
It's funny
say?
'cause one thing I just if you talk about playing sports with boys, I played sports, basketball, softball. It was football always with the boys, and I have an older brother, and the boys would come in my neighborhood to play football in the streets. You remember you watch out for the cars. It'd be the guys at
Yeah.
the end of the street, watch out for the cars. And I was a pretty good wide receiver, and so my mom answered the door one day, and she thought they were coming for my brother Craig, and they're like, no, we want Renata. She's got game. But what playing with the boys did for me, unknowingly, is it taught me how to talk shit, and
There you
that has
go.
helped me. It's helped me navigate the army. It's helped me navigate working at a sports team.
That's
Because I
right.
understand men from a different perspective. That
Mhm.
I'm able to let stuff roll off my back and kind of give as much as I get in a way that creates that sense of belonging when I've been the only woman in the space for a long time. What would people say? That's a great question. I don't know. I hope they would say that Renata is kind. I hope they would say that Renata lifts as she rises. I'd hope they say that Renata, cares deeply about service and giving back to communities that are diverse and that don't have opportunities like she did growing up, but that she has committed her life to being an example of what's possible. That you can overcome your circumstances, you can overcome barriers, you can overcome obstacles. Because I had all of it in my life. I had abuse, not by me personally, but abuse by my grandmother I mentioned and my mom. My sister struggled with schizophrenia. She was diagnosed when she was 16. Drugs, gangs. My brother, you know, sort of lost his possibility of his future, to his gang family. And so,
Wow.
loving community. And I grew up in Carson, loving community, loving family. I have fond memories of, just parties and I mean, black lights and the whole thing. But
Yeah.
I was surrounded by these choices that, when you grow up in economic hardship, that pulls at you. That cycle of poverty is real. And, there weren't many voices saying you could do something different. Look, for my mom, if I had been a grocery clerk and got a union job with some benefits, she was good. And that just wasn't, settling for me. So I hope to be an inspiration to folks and to know that she spent her time here trying to make a difference.
Yeah. And a great shit talker, by the way.
Yeah, and a good cook, and a good cook,
Shit,
and a
yeah.
good cook.
Oh, you are an excellent cook. Like,
That part.
incredible cook. I'm like, "Damn, I need to come over here and sit at her beneath her feet and take some notes." With all of that being said, the good, the bad, the ugly, what would you say is your fondest memory? Your fondest
My,
memory?
my fondest memory, huh? Wow, that's a hard one. Um, so I'm going to answer the question, and I'm going to think about that all night, and I'm going to say, "Man, I should have said that one," or "Man, I should have said that one." Um, I don't know that I have a fondest memory. I know I have uh, a memory that's etched in my head is my experience in the army. That's
Mm,
like it was decades ago now, but that was such a formative experience for me on so many levels that it's still very much prevalent in my life today. in terms of the lessons, in terms of the experience. It was everything in that G.I. Jane movie is true.
I
Everything.
believe it.
Shoot, 2 weeks into basic training, I was trying to tap out. I said,
I've had it.
these these mofos are crazy. I'm like,
But it does
And
do something to you. I think about my brother who served in the Navy. He retired and it changed him forever. Almost unrecognizable to me, his sister. I'm like, is this my brother? Like he was
that's
totally
right.
different. And I
That's
would
right.
imagine you're speaking to some of that. Everything from the discipline to and really I think it changed the essence really of who he was or who he thought he was. And I didn't
That's
think
right.
that was possible. Would you
That's
agree with
right.
that? Yeah.
100%. And it also, for me, um, showed me what I was capable of.
Mm.
That if you put your mind to something and you put in that effort, the world is open with possibilities. You just got to put in the work and go get it.
Yeah, I love that.
And that, yeah, you
I
fall
love
down
it.
7 times, you get up 8.
Yeah, I think it's so important too. Like I love the whole sports factor because especially in today's time, like you see this whole gender identity in terms of and not in that way, but I can remember growing up and like you know, I was the best softball player. If you wanted a good volleyball player, number 2 spiker, call on me
Yeah,
because I wasn't tall. If I were taller, I'd have been number 1, Renata. I'd have been number 1. Track, all of those things. But I found people, labeling me a tomboy. And I was like, I'm very much in my
yeah,
femininity. What are you talking
that's
about,
right.
baby? What are you saying? I'll throw heels on. And to this day, do you find that that kind of stigma still exists even in 2025? Like, people trying to put you in certain
I think it's
categories?
I think it's less now, than it was. Cause same tomboy, I didn't wanna wear dresses, but that wasn't because, I was feminist. Like, you never know when
Yeah,
the game was gonna break out. I
I
wanted to
know that's
minimize
right.
the downtime, right? Cause I said, "Put me in, coach." I always wanted to play. I always wanted to be I was the first one to raise my hand to volunteer to be on a team, and it was every sport: softball, basketball, tennis. So, I think just being in the sports space, it's more recognized as an avenue and a vehicle that,
Mm,
has some equity to it, that it doesn't matter. I mean, and the amount of sports that are out there, right? Just grown tremendously since we were,
oh my
youngins.
god, yes.
Lacrosse and archery and, the disciplines of track and field, the pentathlon. We fund 50 different sports at the L84 Foundation. I do think it's different. I do think though that we're in this transition period of understanding and giving space for women to be their true authentic self. I think a lot of this administration is the white male patriarchy trying to take us back to what
Mm,
is familiar.
yeah.
Women in their roles, women as caregivers, women as the sexualized object, women as the support system. Because and I have a theory, or a perspective. I shouldn't say a theory. I have a perspective that we seized that opportunity over the last decade plus, to really own our power. But we, in some ways, looked over and left men behind. So when we say
Mm.
that women are better leaders, we're not necessarily better leaders. We're different, and in some circumstances we're better. And so I do think that I feel this pull of trying to put us back in those boxes. But if
Mm.
from a sports perspective, I think there are definitely more acceptance and more opportunities for women now than there ever has been.
I also think that, what sports has done and what women have done, right? With all of the newfound liberties and some of the equality, it's not totally equal, right? When we think about women in sports in terms of pay, when we think about terms of opportunities and things of that nature. But the one thing I will say that I think scares people sometimes, and specifically, is that given a chance, given an opportunity, we gonna show up and show out. And we've proven that. We've proven that,
Yeah.
right? When
Sure.
you
Yeah.
consider, look at how women's sports over the past 2 or 3 years has just exploded. And now the biggest thing to watch on TV is, women playing in the NBA. Whereas before it was like, nobody watching that. Even
Yeah.
college, people
Yep.
watching that. And it's begun to trickle down into the younger girls. And I think the one thing that I know for sure, and I'm sure you will attest to this, sports really does give you the foundation of life. You're never gonna win at everything. You're just not.
Oh, yeah.
But you learn
Oh,
how to
yeah.
wipe your snot and your tears, and you get up and
Yeah.
you go practice to play another day, you know?
Yeah.
You won't always be the greatest, but that's why you count on your team. Life is the same
Right.
way, you know? And
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure you've seen that in your life.
yeah, and I'm glad you brought this up. There are greater opportunities for women now than when I was growing up, but it's still not where it needs to be. And I agree with you in terms of pay, in terms of viewership, and we are seeing the NCAA. I mean, my office did the brackets, and most of them did the women's bracket, not the men's, because it was
Mhm.
more interesting, quite frankly. Um, and then we do see greater opportunities for we don't see, I should say, greater opportunities at the younger level. I mean, girls, Latino girls and Black girls are the most likely not to be included in sports because they don't have access and opportunities within their communities or neighborhoods. If a Latino family, as an example, they have 3 kids and they can only afford one. The girl is usually the one that sits out. We do projects with Nike and research and measurement evaluation, and so this is coming from sort of those social constructs of girls still can't play. Better, still a long ways to go in terms of making sure that there's equal access and opportunity, and then involvement. Women coaches still lag behind. Most men, still sign up to be volunteer coaches. So we do have a long way to go. And it is important. Play matters, not just for what you're talking about, Jasmine, in terms of the life skills, but in terms of that, the physical health
Mhm.
of young people, the mental well-being. I did an Ally Love feel good ride today, and there is a difference when you work out at least 20 minutes. That it make the endorphins, the chemicals in the brain that are happy chemicals in the brain. They make you feel good, and that allows you to deal with stress and anxiety and the challenges in life in a profound way that nothing else does. That sense of belonging that you get through sports,
Yeah.
right? Your team is there to pick you up if you're not having the greatest day. So for us, sports is not a nice to have, it's an essential. And it's not necessarily in the college or the professional or even Olympic space. It's just, being able to move your body in ways in which helps to, center you and to navigate the trials and tribulations that is life.
Yeah, that's so true. I couldn't have said that better. It's so funny. I always say, I feel strong mentally whenever I'm strong physically. When I come out of the gym and I feel like I really kicked ass, I feel like I'm going to go to
Yep,
work and kick ass. It's just like a natural
that's
thing
right.
for me.
Yep, yep.
But do you find that you are super critical of yourself?
Oh, I'm a perfection I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist. Um, See, I answered that too fast. I was
Well, just typically, the first answer is usually the right answer.
I'm
You
gonna
know
answer
that,
it this
Renata.
way. I'm gonna answer it this way, and rest his soul, Pope Francis, one of the greatest Jesuits this world will ever know. I was raised in the Jesuit tradition. Loyola Marymount University is my alma mater, and our, men and women of service to others, and always finding ways to become your best self. So, I slipped and said perfection. I want to become my best self. And
Mm,
so, and that's a parallel to sports, right? You're not just going to go out and say, I want to be on the team and I want to be an average player. I want to be the best player on the court. Now, that might mean I'm the sixth person off the bench, but I'm going to be the best sixth person off the bench. And I'm always going to strive to do better. I was at a US Soccer Federation panel discussion I was speaking on, but the person that spoke before was Billie Jean King.
ugh,
And one of the questions they asked her is, how do you feel when you win a tournament or an event? And she says, it's like it's over. I'm looking to the next thing. And I was like, wow, that's me. Like this, I was talking earlier about the science and sport exhibit. We had this, it's going to be opening in May. We had the gala, And I'm like, okay, now I'm on to the next thing. What's the next thing that I can be excellent at? What's the next thing that's going to drive, change and impact for the communities that we serve? So I strive to be my best self and show up every day trying to be better than yesterday.
Well, if yesterday is gone, what are you up until whatever time it is now, what are you most proud of that you've done? You've done so much, like, you've done so many things. What are you most proud of?
My two boys in life, I got to start there. And,
Such
I've,
creatives they are.
oh,
Incredible, incredible.
yeah, yeah, they
I'm
are
telling
creators, but
you and
more
your husband
important,
got some y'all I don't know what y'all did together to create that, but them boys are something else. Highly creative, so
oh,
smart, so humble and
yeah.
nice and good looking. I was like, "Ooh, who y'all
But
about to deal with?"
they're kind boys that care about humanity,
Yeah, I was
and
gonna
they
say
want
they're
to make the
great
world.
human beings. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great human beings, and that's what I'm most proud of from a familial perspective. From a work perspective, I'm most proud of the Play Equity Fund. I founded this organization, this new model of philanthropy that didn't exist. The words play equity had never been put together until I put them together in 2017. Trademarked it as part of our logo, and it is a organization that's centered around the sum of us. It's a demonstration that when we work together, when we find shared purpose, when we're in service of community and those organizations that are showing up every day in their communities to make the lives of young kids and their family better, that when we're in service of that, and then when we focus on storytelling and narrative and shifting mindsets and advocacy and working in partnership with our community, amazing things have happened over the trajectory of the last 8 years, Jasmine, that just blow my mind. I mean, we were in Sacramento last week pushing, the Play Equity Fund is sponsoring a bill to study the creation of a youth sports department or commission in the state of California. We're one of the only industrialized countries in the world that don't have a department that centralizes issues that prevalent to the youth, resources, coaching, education, competencies. It's sort of the wild, wild west. And just our presentation, the conversations with 7-0 vote, but the Speaker of the Assembly wants to meet with us. The head of budget in the budget committee wants to meet with us. Legislators are saying, well, what bills can we carry with you because of our conversation of why sports matters? Now, it might have been my strategy of having Derek Fisher join us for these meetings that
Little
they wanted to
bit,
see him and not me.
little bit, look, little bit, but
But
that's smart play.
however,
Smart play. That was a smart play. That's a coach call. You know what I mean?
exactly,
Smart play.
exactly. 5-time NBA championship
Yeah,
Lakers,
that's
great,
add a little
and
sweetness on it.
I tell you, he was locked and loaded from the whole day, data, sharing his story, really changing the trajectory. But this concept that I had of shifting the narrative and reframing the importance of play and sports through these words, play equity, and now it's in the vernacular. Organizations across the country are referring to play equity. Toronto, I was just on a call earlier today, and Toronto's like, "Will you come and share your model with us because we want to create something similar in Toronto?" That's what I'm most proud of in a work context, is to have the vision to see the future, to build this organization, and to now have such impact that we're having in the system change space and the inspiration space for people to follow suit and to think about sport play and movement differently. I think that's pretty cool.
That's not only pretty cool, it's fucking awesome, if I might say so myself. And all of those things just, from your heart, your soul, the things that you've created and I'm sure, stumbles along the way. Are there lessons that you feel you haven't learned yet, and what are those?
Oh, I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of lessons I haven't learned. I don't know what they are, but I'm looking for them. I'm an insanely curious person.
Mm.
Um, I'm a contrarian. I tell the story. I wear my watch on my right hand because
Me too.
when I went to buy my first watch, I didn't know what to do with it, and they said, "Well, you have to put it on your left. What hand are you?" And I said, "Right hand." And they said, "Well, you have to put it on your left hand." And I said, "Why?" And he couldn't give me an answer. And I'm like, "I'm going to wear it on my right hand."
Do you know what
So
I
I'm
read
always
about people who wear their watch on their right hand, right wrist? Highly creative, intuitive. and thought provoking. It was like a ton of things. You'll have to Google it. But I just naturally, not to really buck anything, but I just naturally felt more comfortable with it on my right. It just made more sense to me. And then I was
Huh.
studying, doing, stories for the show, and I came across this article that said, which arm do you wear your watch? And I was like, doesn't everybody wear it on the right? And I thought, no, they don't. But it never dawned on me. So look at you, highly creative, intuitive chick, shit talker that you are.
And I didn't
And you
even
didn't even
know. Shoot.
know.
Damn. But I'm curious. I'm a contrarian. My favorite question is why? Why do we do that? Why can't we do something different?
Yeah.
I look at, to answer your question, what I have to learn? I don't know yet. I'm excited about, art. I'm in this space now where the Olympics are coming back to LA, and
Yeah.
we're talking about with the mayor's office these cultural hubs. It's the intersection of sport, art, music, culture, community resilience. And so I'm working on a project that Maria Rosario Jackson, the former head of the NEA, is part of it. And one of my good friends, Denise Fairchild, two brilliant Black women that I'm learning so much from in the art space. My son, Sebastian, he's got me, we go to the museum, on Sundays when I'm not traveling or having work, and, just exploring art and his creativity through his eyes is, interesting. I bought a pretty, a pretty expensive piece of sculpture that I saw at my girlfriend's house. And come to find out, it's called Le Souffleur, I think it is. And it's a sculpture, it's a resin, bright, vibrant colors, red and silver pans, and he's got big feet. It's part of this Big Feet series.
Oh,
And I connected with the artist, and I said, I want to buy the piece, but I want to understand from you, what does it mean? And it's all about joy and happiness and stopping and smelling the roses. So I'm learning right now. I'm kind of leaning into the art space and curious about that, and learning more so that I can continue to be a muse for my 17-year-old as he finds his path through his creative spirit.
I love that. Is there any part of you that you can tap into that you were as a child that you see who you are today? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've always thought that we're just larger versions of our childlike self. What do you think you still most identify with in terms of the little girl Renata and the grown badass woman Renata? What's the connection there?
Playfulness.
Mm,
I'll dance when nobody's listening or watching, I should say. It's funny. You made me think about when you mentioned that. I'm on this governor's council for physical fitness and mental well-being, and Jennifer Siebel Newsom, the governor's wife, is a co-chair along with Ronnie Lott. So I'm in some good company. And
indeed.
we were doing a site tour at an elementary school that starts the day with movement and play. And so the council meeting was there, and I flew up to the Bay Area, and it was raining, but they had stopped raining, and they're on the little playground. And so we're walking out, and I'm walking next to the first partner, and her security is there, and I had boots on and a jacket, and the security says, well, watch out for that puddle. And everybody walked around the puddle.
Though you
Girl,
didn't
don't you
know.
know? I jumped in the puddle. But people looked at me because I jumped in the puddle. We're about to go into the elementary school with some kids. We're talking about play and movement. It's like it's fun to jump in a puddle because isn't that what a kid would do? So
Yeah.
I'm still very much that funny, dorky, do stupid stuff because it's fun, it's funny, it's joyful. And I'll tell you a secret that when people looked over, including the first partner, they looked over and they're like, huh. And it's almost as if it gave them permission that they thought about it but didn't do it.
Mm. I'm telling you, I think there's a kid trapped in all of us. But I think as we get older and, people put labels on us, boundaries, chains, invisible chains, I think that we start to say things like, I shouldn't do that. Or, I'm too old for that. And I think there's wonderment and magical things that happen when you tap into the child that's still in you, that will always be inside of you.
Yes, and it's a direct connection in terms of how we learn and build good habits. I was scrolling through social media today and read a statistic, and I haven't verified where it came from, but it says to lock the synapse to learn something requires 344 sort of repetitive actions to lock the synapse on that thing that you're learning. But if you're playing, it's 10 to 20.
Wow.
So there is a connection between the brain movement and your capacity to learn. And certainly you see that in youth development when you just think about kindergarten, right? You're not reading books in kindergarten. You're sitting in the circle. You're doing free play. You're letting the kids negotiate. That hand-eye coordination. That is all developing the brain. And it's interesting to me. I've played all my life. I keep that kid very real and present, and my capacity to learn. And people say, how do you do all this? It's a lot, but it's like, I think it's just my playing it through life and working out, that my capacity to learn new things and my curiosity to want to learn new things comes at such a fast pace because I'm playing. And that's ultimately, Jasmine, what we're trying to, what I don't try, what we're doing through our storytelling and our narrative change is that play is not just important for young kids, it's important for all of us. And
Oh,
that
it
we
is.
need to find ways to unlock our inner child, and let's get on the playground and play.
I totally agree. Is there one thing that pisses you off more than anything? You're like, "Girl, I
Inefficiency.
got a list."
I got a list, but
Inefficiency.
inefficiency. I got things to do. The
Yes,
clock is ticking, Jasmine. The clock is ticking.
and you
The
can't get
children
that
are
time
waiting.
back. Yeah, it's true, and you
Children,
can't get that time back.
one of my board members used to remind me all the time. She's passed away, bless her heart. The children are waiting.
The
So
children are waiting.
inefficiency.
I like that. I'd never really thought about that. I probably would say I don't like people to waste my time. I don't like people who talk all around something instead of just getting to the point. Like, what are
Get
we
to,
doing? What are we
that's
doing here?
inefficiency.
Like, what are
That's
we doing here?
inefficiency.
Yeah, that irritates me. And I'm so impatient with it, but I'm working on it. Because if we're having a conversation and you're beating, I'm like, hey, 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 what is it? What do you
Get to the
want?
point.
Get to
Get to
the
the
point.
point. My assistant called me yesterday because I've once a month Fridays. I have like a lot of young students and young folks. Hey, I want to mentor me, or can you talk to me, your career journey, whatever. So I said, let's do a day. And so I have one on Friday. My assistant calls me yesterday. She says, this may not be something I should bring up to you, but the young lady who you're meeting with on Friday, she wanted to know how she should prepare for the meeting. I said, cancel the meeting.
Woo, facts.
Yeah, when she's ready to use my time, she can come back. That's
That
because
part.
that's the same thing that you're talking about, right? Be prepared.
Be prepared. When you walk in the room, be prepared or don't walk in the room at all.
Know what you want to say.
Know what you wanna say, because you don't listen, the one thing that I've learned, especially in my industry, you probably got about 2.2 seconds, and either you capture someone's attention or you don't, and that's a lost opportunity. So
That's
we don't
exactly
mess
right.
around with that. Speaking of lost opportunities, what has been the thing that's broken your heart?
Ooh, man, those are you just like you got some deep questions. The thing that's broken my heart.
I'm trying to be efficient. I'm not trying to waste your time.
Um, I'm in this reflective mode right now. Where we are as a country, divided, not building bridges, not seeing our shared humanity. Pope Francis passing. Um, you know what what breaks my heart is humans. Is it the people that I
Mhm.
think humanity is fine and is there for the taking? It's the humans that are the problem.
What happened to us, Renata? What happened?
I'm trying to figure that one out, Jasmine. I'm trying to figure that one out because we forgot what we learned in kindergarten.
I think so.
Be kind. Offer a hand to help.
Yeah,
Don't cheat. Do
don't
your own
cheat.
homework.
If I'm not
And
mistaken, Diana Ross said it but best, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
we've lost our way a little bit.
We have. I think it's a cycle. Hopefully, we get back. We need another "We Are the World."
We do. But I don't even know that we could galvanize in a way long enough to take the spotlight off of us individually to focus on that, because that's what was required. It was required that you check your ego at the door and you really thought, how can I be of service collect with this collective to be a we are the world. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I do 100%, and I think
Are you
I'm seeing
optimistic?
that. I am. I'm seeing that in community, right? There's a desire to want to come together and build bridges. I have this concept. I haven't been put it off, but I want to do these small Jeffersonian style dinners and call them curious conversations. And it's about bridge building, right? So 12 to 14 people, but it's people from different backgrounds and different walks of life. And being able to create a safe space to have these conversations and to ask questions. I can tell you one of the most, besides the military, joining a country club to play golf completely changed my trajectory and the conversations that I can have with people who are vastly different on the outside from me. Older
Mm.
white men that worked in government, heads of financial corporations that travel the world and, their house looks like a hotel. And to be able to find common bond through golf lets me know that there's hope because we just have to find that connection and that point or two of what binds us and makes us similar. I think we've been focusing too long on what makes us different.
Mm, very well said. It's so funny. I love golf. I used to not. My dad would watch it when I was growing up, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so boring." Da, da, da. But the thing for me, and I'd love to hear what golf teaches you, but it teaches me humility. Because just when I think I'm good and I've, just my long game is on point, my short game is on point, and then I think, yes, I shot in the 80s and I go back the next day and I'm like, what happened to me?
You
But it's
shot in the 80s.
humility.
I'm still, girl, I'm striving to get to the 80s. I think my lowest score is 92. If I shoot under 100, I'm happy.
But listen, but the thing I love about it is, again, humility. And it's such a great life lesson that never forget where you came from.
Yeah.
And don't get so big that you think, I'm just the best. No, you're not. You still got a lot to learn. What would you say golf teaches you?
Be in the moment.
Be in the
Is
moment.
that to hit a good shot requires about 15, your process. Trust the process, but be in the moment. And
Mm.
for me, golf is about quieting my mind and only focusing on that shot. That's what I'm trying to perfect with golf. Because when I do that, my balls go long and straight.
No, not a lot of people can say that on many levels.
Yeah. So
Well, I'll say
teaching
this.
be
I have had some of the most amazing conversations at your home. I am just honored to have been invited. I think you do a great job of curating environments of people from different areas of what they of just different things, different workspaces, different communities, different and I think it's so important that someone is doing that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be completely honest. I've tried to replicate that in my own way because I've enjoyed it so much. And I was like, I want other people to feel this. I want other people to know what it's like to sit across the table from someone who doesn't look like them, or maybe didn't come from the same background, or maybe they work in a whole different type of profession. And I've had some of the most amazing conversations at your home. And, I don't know, it's really opened my mind up to so
Hmm.
many things. I'm sure you've
Hmm.
heard that before.
Yeah, no, you know, Jasmine, thank you for saying that. I've always been that way. So back to your question about, the Renata as a little girl and who is a Renata today is my my experiences in life. My grandmother, who was married to a white metallurgist from Berkeley, she would have these conversations with people from all walks of life, and I spent a lot of time with my grandmother to kind of, escape the craziness in my family situation in my neighborhood, and I'd sit and be part of these conversations. Joining the army after high school, I traveled to 7 countries before I was 18. Seeing I lived in a town called Erlangen, and it was a college town, so there were Germans there, but then there were Americans from all over the United States that would come, and we would have these conversations in cafes or in somebody's home or dinners out somewhere, and it just gave me a perspective
Mm.
and that it takes a moment to be curious to ask a question. I'm really bullish on curiosity right now. You know, I've always been curious, but I've been studying what does that mean? You know, curiosity leads to empathy. Do you know that?
I
Right.
did know
So
that.
if you're more empathetic, then you care about the other person, right? I'm always asking questions. I haven't asked you one question because you're the interview, so I'm respecting that. But you know, where are you
We'll
from?
have time for that.
You know, where are you from? Where's your accent? I mean, these and so I'm actually learning that my superpower is not just resiliency, but my superpower is bridge building. Is I'm comfortable and belong in every room that I just step into. It may take me a minute to get there, but I'm going to find a way to connect with someone and reduce those barriers of differences. And you know, I think our home is a reflection of that, that we are empathetic, we're kind, we care. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you look like.
Yeah.
You know, your conversation is valid. And it may be that I disagree with you, but we're going to be able to still have a conversation that may help me learn something more about you or your situation or your perspective that's going to make me a better person.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to lean into that more and really understand and tap into that power because you're not the only one that said that, and people were saying, "When can we come back to your house?" I'm doing some
I'm
remodeling now
telling
if you
you,
hear the beating in the back, so that's why we haven't had one
I
yet, but
brag about it all the time. I've told Terry many times. I was like, "Oh, I hope she invites me back," because there is such there's not only a comfort, there is a sense of freedom, a sense
yeah,
of connection that you
yeah.
provide, and it's like all of these, articles of I'm a country girl, and my grandmother used to make these patchwork quilts. And so when I would come to your house, it was like all of these different fabrics, and then you'd
Yep.
work the room stitching them all together. It's literally like a symphony. It's beautiful to watch,
Oh,
and very few people can pull it off without seeming like overt about it, like just pushy with it. Like you do it so effortlessly. It is a superpower that you have.
you, man, I feel like I'm in therapy right now. Because I was trying Jasmine, I was trying to name it. I was
That's
trying
what
to
it
name it and
is.
I was trying to name it and understand it, and if think about I am thinking about where I grew up. I grew up in the city of Carson, just down the 110 freeway. From the valley or from downtown. And my mom was mixed race. Her father was white. She's married to my stepdad, who's black. So black men. My aunt was married to a black man, but then divorced, and she had the United Nations rainbow of men that came in through her life. You know, Jewish men, Korean men, Chinese men. She was an equal opportunity
Equal
lover.
opportunity before it was a thing.
Right. My mom and stepdad's best friend were two sisters, Mexican from El Paso. Another one of their best friend was Asian couple, because they were in the grocery industry. And I can remember vividly at my house when they would throw parties it was like from everybody from every walk of life. And that was our community. Samoans, my friend group was Samoans, Japanese, Chinese, um, Filipino. You know, we ate each other's food because that's if you go to Jill's house, Jill's mom's gonna make Japanese food. If you go to Sandra and Alley Cat's house, Sandra's mom's gonna make lumpia. And now I desire when everybody says, oh, it's Filipino town. What can I get some lumpia? And so that was the richness of my childhood, is that people from every walk of life was in my neighborhood, and I appreciate and understand a little bit about their culture, about their background, about their journeys, that I think I bring that to the forefront because I've had the richness of these experiences that a lot of people haven't.
But I think that's the beauty of it though, because you are recreating almost like your childhood, and you're
Mm.
involving people from different walks of life and literally stitching it together like a quilt. And then there is a community that is forever built, because you never I would dare to say no one forgets dinner at your house. I would bet no one forgets because it's always memorable. It's always fun. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel stuffy. It's relaxed, but you could tell that it's like a movement. It's like this energy that's all over the room, and it's you right there in the middle, like a conductor, just kind of. And I've always felt welcome. I've always had a
Yeah.
wonderful time, and that's why when I knew I was going to be doing this again this year, I said I have to have Renata on because I really want to talk to her.
I appreciate that. You know,
I
the
just
bar's always open the bar's always open
the
at the Simrils.
always open. I'm gonna ask you one final question. I hope it doesn't offend you, but and not offend, but put you on the spot. If you had the opportunity to sit with your grandmother one more time,
Hmm.
what would you tell her? What would the conversation be like?
Hmm. Channeling your inner Oprah. I would ask her if she was proud of me. I make bold choices. The time in which my mom and my grandmother grew up, they didn't have an opportunity to make choices. My grandmother was brilliant, just so smart, um, loved science, and that just wasn't. You couldn't. She didn't, for whatever reason, that she couldn't make the choices other than being a wife,
Mm,
right? And then the choices that she did made sort of forced her into a situation where, you know, the men in her life didn't see her dignity and didn't see her potential, didn't see her possibility. And I think my mother followed that same path. And I just hope that they're both proud of me, that I continue to make choices, and to make courageous choices that they couldn't make, to make
mm.
sure I'm showing up and being the best that I can be and
I
not
have
settling.
no doubt that not only are they proud of you, I think they brag about you. And I think you carry them with you in every room that you walk into. And I think you leave a little bit of them with every kid that you touch, with every opportunity that you create. It's there. I believe that in my heart because to have let me tell you something about the Teflon Don over here. I'm a
I'm the
Scorpio to the
Teflon Don, and
bone.
you
I'm
got me all tearing up,
the
Jasmine. The hell?
I'm a
Shoot.
Scorpio to the bone. It is so hard to really do something that moves me or touches me in a way that moves me to action. Because I think that's the true test. Does it move you to do something? And you've
Yeah.
done that with me. And I think
Hmm.
you've probably done that to countless people. And I think it's a testament to what your grandmother planted in you. So I would say, well done, just like she would. You should be
Well,
proud.
Jasmine Sanders, thank you for giving me my flowers.
Are you kidding? You deserve and I'm gonna give you real flowers the next time I see you. Because I think what you are doing, not just every other day, not just when you feel like it, but every single day. You show up like it's game time, like it's the Super Bowl. You show up every day, you're prepared. I see the work that you're doing. It's reflected in the community, and I think about it's my first time being in a city where the Olympics is going to be, and I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. It's electrifying and obviously play equity, just all of that just speaks to my soul because I'm going to be an athlete in my even though my body is like, look, we through with that.
Oh, yeah. Keep
There's
going.
some
You can
things I
golf for
can't do.
you can golf for a long time.
Yes,
You could.
mentally I'm there and I have just enjoyed this time with you. I'm so
Mm.
happy that you were able to carve out the time. Um I'm gonna hold you to that cooking lesson because I need to learn how to fry
I
that
think you
chicken.
said you wanted to be at my feet.
I need to
You
learn
can
how to cook that chicken. Let me tell you something, girl. You be putting your foot in some food. And I remember thinking when I walked in, I was like, she probably gonna have somebody here cooking this food. And you were in the kitchen. I was like, okay.
oh, that's my happy place. Bringing
Yes,
joy to people.
I
Bringing
love
joy to
that.
people through food.
And I'm just
So,
happy to hopefully have brought some joy to you. And I can't wait to share it with with all of my listeners and on the platform, and I just wish you continued success, and I just hope nothing but the best for you and the way that you've
Mm,
given it to
thank
so
you.
many other people.
Well, thank you, Jasmine Sanders. This has been a treat. Been a treat. You
Yes.
can see, and now people, now your listeners who know me will say, "Wow, Renata's not Teflon."
And
I
then
miss
they'll
them.
see you, they be like, "No, she don't that's a shit talker right there, don't mess with
Yeah,
her."
I am.
Well, let
I
me tell
am.
you.
I am. I am.
So
But
what you
my
shooting
my
tonight? Is it gonna be all right, for tonight, to cap the night off, how would you cap it off? Would you cap it off with whiskey, rum, tequila, champagne, wine, tea? How you gonna close out the night?
I'm gonna probably do some peppermint tea.
Peppermint tea. I might
Hmm.
put a little peppermint in my gin because 'cause I'm gonna have a little gin and tonic in
I'm
honor of
gonna. I'm
you.
gonna. I know it's not yet May, but I'm gonna dry May.
Oh,
I've been
dry.
hitting. I've been hitting the martinis a little hard.
A little too hard. Oh, yeah, don't do
That's
that
right.
now. Don't do
You know,
that.
we've been, you know, what you say when you do, it's like friends are like, I haven't seen you. You've been working. Let's go to dinner.
Yes.
And so I went to dinner with some friends at Boulevard down the street, and one of the co-owners was with us, and they just kept bringing these espresso martini shots, and they had some good wine.
They make the best espresso martinis.
The waiters were drinking with us these shots because we damn near closed the restaurant down.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
said, this is my temple, so I gotta take it. So a
Gotta
little tea
ease
from me,
back.
a little tea.
Well, I'll take that note from you. Well, again, thank you so much. What a pleasure. I can't wait to be able to come back to your house sometime soon for a nice
Yeah,
little dinner.
as
And I'm
soon as
gonna
this remodeling's I
yes,
hope you don't
and
hear this.
I
Do you hear
don't.
that?
Mm-mm,
Okay,
not at
good.
all, not at all, and I'm looking forward to these carefully curated dinners and conversations. I think that's something that you really should lean into because I think that's
Yep,
a that different communities coming together talking. Because I
yep,
think in some ways we've lost the art of conversation, and I think we should bring it back.
yep, yep. It's curious. I think I have a couple dates on it, so stay tuned.
I will indeed. Renata Simril, thank you
All
so
right.
much, girl. Love you.
All
We'll
right,
talk
thank you. Love
soon.
you too. All right, talk
Bye.
soon.